Hey everyone, it's Mr. Wob194. I hope you're doing well today. I have a book review for you for another Bentley Little novel, and this one is called The Resort. I really like this one. It's the third book of his that I read, and so far, at this current point, it's my favorite that I've read of his. This one actually has me more excited to pick up some more Bentley Little at some point. I have a lot in my collection I just haven't gotten to. The only ones I've read so far were pretty much these two. About 8 years ago, I read The Haunted, and I really like this. This is my first Little book. Really solid, really fun read, and kind of has the same issue this one has, but I'll get to that later on. Really fun one. However, I bought this book years ago, way before I bought The Haunted and read The Haunted. I've had this book in my collection for like 10 years and just never got around to reading it, but the cover is what sold me on this at a Books A Million, I believe. And this one is The House. This is the first book I reviewed on this channel, I believe, and it was awful. It was a terrible book, and it sucked. I hated it. But anyway, The Resort totally made up for that. I was very hesitant going into this, and I wanted more of a summertime read. I didn't want to read Jaws or Jaws 2 yet. I have both of those novelizations. I think Jaws 2 is a novelization. Anyway, didn't want to jump into those yet, so I wanted something very summertime, kind of like how I like reading Christmas horror at Christmas time and Halloween horror at Halloween time. And I picked this up because it has the word resort in the cover, and I read the back just briefly. I usually don't do that, but I picked it up on this one and was like, you know what, this sounds like a summertime read. I'll pick it up and I'll crack it open. And I did. And so far, as I said, it's probably my currently favorite Bentley Little book. I think it's the strongest. I think it's the most wild and fun. I think it really knows what it is. And I think Bentley Little really kind of perfected his formula with this book, in my opinion, personally. That being said, what is this book basically about? Well, there's a family. The dad is named Lowell, the wife is named Rachel, just like my wife, and they have 3 sons, Ryan, Curtis, and Owen, I believe. I'm really bad with names. If you've watched my reviews long enough, you know I'm bad with names. Unless it's a book that I really love, or a movie I really love, or a person I really love, it's kind of hard to remember that. Anyway, so these guys are going on a vacation. They managed to get a discount on a place called the Rita, which is out in Arizona, in the middle of nowhere, in the desert, literally in the middle of nowhere. I know everybody jokes about Arizona being in the middle of nowhere, but this is a great example of a place literally being in the middle of nowhere. And it's not like a cheapo Motel 6 type of thing. This is a really massive, enormous premise type place where you just have, or premises is what I meant, you have so many buildings that are on this property. It's fenced in and everything. It's just a summertime fun place to be, apparently, and they have golf carts to travel around and whatnot. And when they get there, they think it looks pretty freaking normal, but really cool, really upscale, really nice for their budget and what their family can afford right now. And the thing is, things get a little weird. And that's the big thing I love with this book. It's not just like a straightforward horror book, slasher book, anything like that. It's not really any of that. It's kind of a supernatural-ish type of thing, which is typically what Bentley Little does with his books. Out of the 3 that I've read, all of those have that component to them. This one's no different. But one thing I notice is that this particular book, unlike The Haunted, unlike The House, it's very cartoonish. And when I say that, I mean like it's meant to be. It feels like it's meant to be very wild, very over the top, very crazy, very eccentric, if you will. And let me tell you, that makes the book even better. It really does. Now, the book is only as long as it is. It's almost 400 pages long. It's only that long because of a couple other storylines with a couple other characters that I really just think it should have been chopped out of the entire book. As much as I enjoyed this book, it's not perfect, and I'll get to more of my other complaints in a minute, but there's 2 other storylines about 2 other characters in this book that I literally just could not possibly care less about. I don't think they had any point to even be in here, and it's a great example of fluff in modern-day writing. Not because of Bentley Little, just because of the way publishers work, how big they want books to be because of people like Stephen King. So, for example, there's one particular character, I think his name is Patrick. He's a movie critic who has to go to a recent film festival locally. And so he stays at the Rita, and he does his little film festival stuff and has to work on reviews and whatnot, and he has some weird moments, just like, you know, just like Lowell and Rachel's family do. They don't know each other. I don't think they really ever even talk in the book. They're just kind of having their own little experiences as guests at the Rita. And then there's another guy and his wife that come here. I don't even remember his name. You don't follow him that often. There's another guy and his wife that come here as well. And they have some weird experiences as well. And that's really what the book is. It's not really plot driven by any means. It's just kind of a vacation book where weird things are happening, and very over the top cartoonish things. For example, the movie critic guy, Patrick or whatever, has a hotel room, and the other room next to it sounds like there's a party going on, and then there's gunshots. And no one in the entire building seems to know what's going on. The staff swear up and down there's no one in that room. They call up security. Security goes in there. There's no one there. Patrick sees it for himself. And as soon as everybody leaves, that noise starts up again. Weird things like that happen. People are thinking they're seeing or hearing people get brutally murdered by management and stuff in other rooms, or in the room next to restrooms and that kind of thing. It's wild. It's a really, really wild book. But again, there is kind of a supernatural element there that might not work for everybody, but for me, I think it really worked with this type of book. Now, this is the thing. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy the characters for the most part. I even enjoy this one side character that becomes friends with the younger boys, the main character Lowell and his wife Rachel, their sons. There's a kid that befriends those kids that his parents actually took him to vacation here as well, named David. David's fun. I like him. I think he's a fun character, and there's some spooky moments that involve David and the three kids, and I like those moments a lot. They really enhance this book and make it more and more creepy. And I would say the book is a little bit more weird than actually scary, and that's kind of a thing to really specify with audiences, because a lot of people just want straight out scary. Bentley Little is not the guy for that. In my personal opinion, I don't think he is. Out of the 3 books I've read, probably not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's another book out there that says otherwise from him, but currently I don't feel that way. He's not Brian Keene for me. He's not Jonathan Mayberry for me when it comes to that. I do like his work. He's not that horror guy that scares you. If you want to have a crazy, brainless type of fun time, Bentley Little's for you. There's actually a couple of moments in here that made me laugh out loud, and I don't really laugh audibly to things in books unless they're really stupid. So these things were actually very clever, and that should tell you a lot about how I felt about this book and how much I actually really enjoyed it. Now, one other thing I do have as a complaint. This has happened in every single one of the books I've read from Bentley Little. All 3 of these books, particularly with The Haunted, because I really like The Haunted. The house sucked, like I said. The Resort has the issue of the book being really engaging, really fun, and keeping you curious, and then the ending of the book really just doesn't land right. It needed a couple of more pages, but it really just needed a revision entirely for that ending. That last conclusion of the book just really didn't work for me, that last chapter. It's just something about it, the way it was taken about, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work for me. I didn't like it. I thought it was really dumb. Just really, really dumb the way the last couple of pages went in this book. And it kind of threw off everything else the book had going for it. Other than that, it's a really strong read. It's got some really clever writing to it, some really fun writing. The characters aren't the strongest thing ever. I like Lowell, I like Rachel, I like the kids, I like David, the side character, who's probably my favorite character in the book. There are cool things in here. There's a really cool antagonist in the book, and some other antagonists that are kind of side antagonists that are weird. I like the staff, for example. There's one particular coordinator guy for different activities and whatnot. And he's not really an antagonist, but he is absolutely hilarious how much he pisses people off. And there are moments involving him that made me laugh out loud. Bentley Little, I saw this in a review that I read the other day for one of his books somewhere on Reddit. In one of the threads on HorrorLit, which is a subreddit there. The people were talking about Bentley Little. It was an old one, really old one. Somebody had commented that either they themselves or somebody around them had said something to the effect of Bentley Little is not a horror writer, he's a horror comedian, and he doesn't know it. And sometimes I think Bentley Little is. I really do think that, and I think sometimes he knows that. And this is a great example of that. This book is more funny and weird than it is scary, and that's what made it work so well for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe this is one of those books after The House. I don't know what was published before what, but maybe this is one of the ones where he really hit his stride, because I hear that this is one of his best books, and it does not surprise me because it really is from what I've experienced so far. Anyway, I really don't have much more to say about it. It's a really solid read. I really recommend it if you want a really bizarre, weird, horror book, if you want to call it a horror book, for the summertime. It's something different, it's something interesting, and I had a good time reading it. I smiled through most of it. I kind of had this one moment towards the end of the book that I get with really good books that I really enjoy, where I'm kind of a little bit kind of trying to avoid that last 100 pages. Like, I don't want to pick up the book and stuff because I don't want to finish the book yet. And that's kind of sad. I had that with this book today when I finished it up and read the last 100. So I waited like a week before I got to the last 100. I didn't have enough time during the week to read more of it. But anyway, when it comes to The Resort from Bentley Little, again, at this current moment, I think it's his best book that I've read out of the 3 I've read. Really solid, really recommended. I think if you haven't read this one and you want to try out Bentley Little, this could be your first book from him, and I think it's going to be a home run, but I'm going to warn you ahead of time. A lot of stuff's not going to live up to how good this is. So, if I had to rate it on a 5-star basis, I think I would give The Resort a 4 out of 5 stars. It's got flaws, it's not perfect, but it's really solid. It's a really, really solid, crazy vacation type of read. If I read this on vacation, like the beach or something, I'd have a blast with it too. Anyway, what are your thoughts on The Resort? If you've read it, put your thoughts and comments down below, folks. I would love to hear what you have to say about this, about my review, about Bentley Little himself. Do you love him? Do you hate him? Put all that down below. Thank you for watching, guys. God bless you, and goodbye.